I just love it when a movie shoots on location because set photos, and boy, do we have a gorgeous batch today. They've trickled in all day long, so I'm glad I waited to make the video until the end of the day because my favorite one right here came in at the last minute. Oh, and thank you everyone who brought all of these to my attention. They're just so good. I mean, any lingering concern I had about the Batman is gone with these photos. And I now trust Matt Reeves' creative vision 100%. I mean, I love the teaser trailer from DC Fandom. I just felt it wasn't perfect. And I find it frustrating when things are so close to perfect that they should be perfect. But now, I feel this is perfect. I just think it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm a Batman and X-Men fan. I take those two franchises particularly seriously because they just mean so much to me. And I know what I like. I know what I want to see. And we're about to have a love fest because I think this stuff looks so good. I just want to say also on a side note, there have been some rumors about problems on the set, which I've not heard from any of my sources. I don't believe them to be true. What I've reported in the past is that Robert Pattinson had trouble bulking up for the role, so they waited a little bit to start filming because of that. And as you can see, he clearly has had problems bulking up for the role. He has not by any means transformed himself into, the way, like, for instance, other actors have for comic book movies. But you know what? That's fine. I mean, how many Batman movies and TV shows have there been at this point? I think it's great to play with things a little bit, but I think that Matt Reeves is playing with them in a way that even though he's changing things a little bit with an emo Bruce Wayne and, a Catwoman of color and a nice nod to Eartha Kitt, I think that they still everything here still seems incredibly, also with Jim Gordon, but everything seems, you look at it, you can instantly recognize the character that you're looking at. And that to me is just so exciting. And that's the way you evolve a property. A lot of these comics came out from Marvel and DC, a long time ago when, they didn't care to try and be more representative. But it's 2020 or 2022 when this movie comes out. You want to make everyone feel like they're a part of the story, but without changing the story. And Matt Reeves is doing that, and that's really, really exciting. And, that's beneficial to bringing in new groups because you don't want them to feel like the group is, bringing the project down or, not making it as good. And here you're like, it's just as good as you want it to be, but now also inclusive. Because I think Gordon looks amazing, but with Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, with these photos today, I feel she will be as good as Michelle Pfeiffer's. We haven't had a Catwoman that good since then, and I believe that we're going to get it. And that's very exciting. We already have Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, so we don't need to do that again. So I think this is just fantastic. Now, speaking of Matt Reeves, we must protect him at all costs, and he's working very hard to protect himself. Isn't this hilarious? Here he is, not just with a mask, but goggles, a hood, and a hat. He's like, I'm not getting sick or COVID. And I don't blame him one bit. That's what I would wear if I were on a COVID set, talking to actors all day and extras with no idea where they've been. And when my lead actor has already caught coronavirus. And despite what some people say, you're not immune to coronavirus once you catch it. I think you're only immune maybe for like 3 months, maybe. So, I wouldn't, and also we haven't, that's a whole different conversation, but nobody knows anything for sure when it comes to coronavirus. So I wouldn't take any chances either. Good for you, Matt Reeves, a great filmmaker and a smart cookie. And this set is amazing. This photo is just so phenomenal. It has been rumored that Matt Reeves is at least partially adapting Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's The Long Halloween. Loeb was Reeves' screenwriting professor at USC, and these pics do look like that comic book brought to life. To this day, my favorite Batman stories are The Long Halloween, its sequel Dark Victory, and of course, Batman Year One. Killing Joke to some degree, of course. They're not to say there aren't other iconic Batman stories, but those are the ones that really clicked with me and me personally. Like I was like, this is great. And it seems Matt Reeves likes the same stories. So this Batman movie seems to be made for me in particular. I'm like, I feel like it was made just for me. I love it so much. And I'm particularly happy because, The Long Halloween and Dark Victory have never really gotten a lot of attention over the years as great Batman stories. And so I think Matt Reeves is very savvy to identify them because they're so strong and bring them to the forefront. It's great stuff. In the past, I've said that some Marvel movies have felt like the Marvel Comics brought to life. And while I've enjoyed many DC movies up until this point, I have never seen a DC movie where I felt like it was the actual comic book brought to life. I've seen things that are wonderfully inspired. I've seen them dragged into the real world like Christopher Nolan did so brilliantly. But here, I actually feel like I'm reading The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, or Batman Year One. And that's very, very exciting. Now, we'll talk about the big players in this photo in just a moment, but you know who caught my eye? That guy in the middle. Who is that guy? He is in a prominent position, and I would say that to me is Harvey Dent. That just looks like Harvey Dent to me. And if he is Harvey Dent, I will be absolutely thrilled. Harvey Dent is a pivotal player in The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. It's as much his origins, it's really his origin story. Here they're kind of doing a mix, so it would be great to see an origin of all these characters. You know, it's like, you know, Gotham, the TV series, 0.5, right? It's like right before all this stuff happens. And a lot of these characters, you know, it makes sense that they would all come up together because Batman is Bruce Wayne's answer to this new type of criminal. I always think that's interesting. It's a chicken and the egg conversation. Did Batman bring all these freaks out, or did all these freaks bring out Batman? It's great stuff. I love it. So anyway, that looks to me like Harvey Dent. He looks a little like Reggie Mantle too, a little bit, as we've seen portrayed by some actors recently. I couldn't find his name on IMDb. I couldn't find out what actor that is. However, I did see on IMDb that Charlie and Max Carver, twins, have been cast in undisclosed roles for the film. So I wouldn't be surprised if that guy probably hangs out with the two of them. I'm so excited. This is like everything I ever hoped for in a Batman movie. And there have been good Batman movies before, but again, this is just, it's so on target. I can't believe our good luck. Matt Reeves is really working very hard to make sure that, you know, this really takes him to the next level, like comic book movies have been able to do for other filmmakers. And I think he's doing it. I mean, I really appreciate it. I mean, if that's Harvey Dent and he has the Carver twins with him, I'm just going to be over the moon. And I can't believe we have to wait till 2022 for this stupid movie, which is clearly going to be ready earlier. And I hope Warner Brothers comes to its senses. For Matt Reeves to make such a masterpiece and then for Warner Brothers to say, thank you, we're going to put it on this shelf until later, is just friggin' nuts. All right, so that's Bruce Wayne, a.k.a. Batman, obviously. Behind him is Selina Kyle, a.k.a. Catwoman. Then Harvey Dent, hopefully. Then you have, that's a great scarf, Harvey. Then he's just so perfect. I can't believe it. And to find an actor who I think can stand next to Zoe Kravitz and Robert Pattinson is just a casting coup. I'm so excited. All right, so anyway, that guy pulls focus like crazy. If I were the other actors in the scene, I'd be like, we better watch out for this guy. All right, so then John Turturro is Carmine Falcone. We're going to talk about everybody individually, don't worry. And then at the end there, Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot, a.k.a. the Penguin, wearing Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill-level prosthetics. And look at the sweat stains on his shirt and his wrinkled suit, which is a cheap suit, by the way. He clearly needs another button on there. I'd be like, Oswald, I can see your pants. Come on, either pull your pants down or get another button. What's going on here? And I do think it would be pretty ironic if Colin Farrell finally gets the recognition he deserves being unrecognizable. Hilarious! As you can see, this is the funeral for the mayor, and the DC fandom teaser has already revealed that Riddler crashes the party. I think that's going to be great. Again, typical Batman. You know, funerals are always quite the party in Gotham. So let's start with Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne. I have to say, this new look is growing on me. I must say, he looks like he has very freshly washed hair. I'm like, wow, you really look like that I like the foppishness of his haircut. For some reason, it just really speaks to me. So I like it. It's growing on me. Again, it's growing on me. I still feel it's not enough of a disguise. He needs that Playboy facade. And many of you, when I said that in my trailer reaction, were like, Grace, it's an origin story. He's going to come up with that. Don't worry about it. It'll come later. But I feel that this is valuable time when I think somebody would make the connection, and maybe someone will. But he just looks like he looks too clearly troubled and like he's a smart guy. So if you'd be like, which of us do you think is wearing a Batman suit and running around dealing with all the people, who, you know, and also who isn't here? And you'd be like, Bruce Wayne. I mean, he looks like someone you should keep an eye on. And that is the last thing Bruce Wayne should look like. So that's a concern to me. But still, it's undeniable that Robert Pattinson is cutting a striking figure here. Super charismatic. Like this shot with the paparazzi, I believe that's for the film. Clearly people are taking pictures of them filming, but this is a big deal funeral. The press would be there. I mean, that's just an incredible, incredible shot. That's like something you would see in a film textbook for studying great cinematography. And on that note, if you've read The Long Halloween, and I highly recommend that you do, it's so good. This is, The Long Halloween is an homage to The Godfather. It actually has an opening just like The Godfather, in fact. And the filmmaking here reminds me of the precision of Francis Ford Coppola's. With, come to think of it, I love this, Bruce Wayne sharing the intensity and careful calculations of Al Pacino's Michael Corleone. Right? I've seen that look before, Robert Pattinson, and it was on Al Pacino's face back in The Godfather. That was an origin story in many ways, and a damn good parallel for Batman. I mean, let's keep an eye on this upcoming movie for similar story beats. For instance, the Don Corleone assassination attempts, but even more so, the aftermath at the hospital and Michael's revenge. They do seem like those scenes would be just perfect in a Batman comic. So, and I said from the teaser trailer with Jeffrey Wright being like a Morgan Freeman character from Seven, I think that you kind of have Seven and The Godfather together, which makes sense because The Godfather represents what Gotham was and Seven represents the direction that it's headed in, which would freak anybody out, even a mobster. So I think that is just an amazing two halves to put together to make a Batman movie. I mean, it's just fantastic. And The Long Halloween was partially about how the mob was losing control of Gotham to the freaks. Now, clearly, let's move to Carmine Falcone because he's a mobster, and it seems that Oswald Cobblepot is one as well. Now, in the comics, Cobblepot comes from a highbrow family, even if he was maybe a bit of an embarrassment to them. But here, he seems very lowbrow. In fact, you could even maybe think he was playing Harvey Bullock if it wasn't for the purple shirt, the umbrella, although a lot of them have umbrellas, and the hook-pointed nose, very much like the character in the comics. But I mean, his disheveledness reminds me more of Harvey Bullock. Now, in both Year One and The Long Halloween, Selina Kyle has her run-ins with Carmine Falcone. In Year One, she famously leaves her mark on his face, and I wasn't sure at first, but I do agree with you guys. I do think that they're the same scars on his face here. Oh, but it must have happened a while ago because those don't seem like fresh scars. So maybe we'll have a flashback. You gotta show him getting those scars. How did I get these scars? That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, I think that's clearly what it is. So that's very interesting. But there he is hanging out with Catwoman. He's not like, I can't hang out with you. You scratch the heck out of my face. Maybe he's like, it kind of works for me. So the question obviously is, does Carmine know that she's Catwoman? I mean, we'll have to find out. But I think looking at those nails day in and day out, he would eventually put it together. He'd be like, wait a minute. But her close proximity to him in this scene gives me the vibe that Reeves might be going with the comic book version where she's actually Falcone's daughter. Now, in the comics, she's his illegitimate daughter, who he doesn't acknowledge publicly. And so that's why she has a particular vendetta against him. But here, she does seem to be his trusted confidant. So then you have to wonder, has she always been his trusted confidant? Is this a situation? Because, in The Long Halloween and Dark Victory, Carmine Falcone is very close with his children. They're very much being raised to take over the family business, obviously. But, Selena is not included because and he has many children. You would think that maybe that other actor could be one of them, but he still seems like Harvey Dent to me. He just seems too much like Harvey Dent. But you could have a situation here where he, maybe if she even started out as an illegitimate child, she, proves herself. And he starts to take her advice, very seriously, and that she actually, can be very valuable to the family and to him. And perhaps when the freaks do start to come over, start to take over, that's Selina's moment. Maybe that's what she grabs onto. And she's like, I understand this mindset. Whereas my brothers and sisters, maybe I don't know if there's going to be the division of whether or not they're legitimate or not. But, Selina's like, this is my specialty. I think that's very interesting. Now let's talk about Selina Kyle. As I said, one of the best Catwoman I've ever seen, and the potential to be up there with Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. It's that good. Now the hat is totally British, and one of you actually tweeted me and said, do you think this is a reference to Meghan Markle? Now I would want to politicize the role. That would make me very nervous because Meghan Markle is a very divisive figure. But it is a darn good match. It's such a good match that once you bring it up, it's kind of hard not to see it. And I do think that Meghan Markle very much is an outsider coming in and changing things up. And I think, as many people might have a problem with that, you can't deny the effect that she has and the success factor that she has to some degree. I mean, she did just get a Netflix deal, right? I mean, Meghan Markle, I don't know what's going on with Harry, but Meghan Markle's getting everything Meghan Markle wanted. So you can't deny that success. And so I think maybe Catwoman in the Falcone family maybe would be a Meghan Markle. And, I think that's fascinating to me. That would be a really interesting layer. And I think, no matter what your issues might be with Meghan Markle, I think everyone can agree that the UK press was unfair to her when you compare, some of the articles between her and Kate. So I think that would be a nice thing for Meghan Markle. And I have to say, it would give the film a little bit of a serious commentary. There's something else, too, that I think will help in that regard. And that will always help you with the critics. So it could be a very smart choice by Matt Reeves to do that. Now, the hat might be British, but it's made out of black latex, and that's all Gotham. In fact, the outfit is very high-end in some ways. The whole look is high-end. The elegant posture is perfect. The light pink nails, or claws. We'll talk about her nails in a moment, but light pink, I think, is a very important choice. It's a little Grace Kelly as well. It's very important they be light pink. I can't tell you how important it was, and I think it's brilliant that they realized that. But there's also dominatrix elements to the costume, right? From the latex and the leather to the fishnets and the lace-up stiletto boots. And an upscale dominatrix is the perfect combination for Catwoman. And one of you also tweeted me and said that she's showing pretty much no skin. She's totally covered up, but she couldn't be sexier. And I think that's also just perfect for this movie. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Now back to those claws. This is not only an amazing idea, but it's perfectly executed. Do you know how rare that is? Especially for female characters, it's like almost impossible. I mean, it's crucial they be light pink because it makes them still elegant and that she can fit into high society. Selena Kyle is very smart. And if she had black or a bright color, a red or pink, I think that they would take away the high-end element of her look. And so she wouldn't be able to mix with high society the way she is. So and also they blend in with her fingers better this way. And so they make it almost look like more like claws and less like nails. It's just really, really fantastically done. And then on top of that, Zoe Kravitz's hand acting is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the way she's able to hold her hand so that you notice the claws, but that it doesn't seem like she's going over the top and you're like, okay, we get it, you have claws. I mean, that's just incredible. And look at her cheekbones too. They look like they could cut you as well. As for the hair, some of you are like, what happened to the pixie cut? I believe that's a wig, as some of you do as well. And I think it's a misdirect. And I think she actually does have the pixie cut, which is a great idea. I think the pixie cut is right out of the comics. It makes Zoe Kravitz look even more like the original character from the stories I'm referencing. Although in the Long Halloween and Dark Victory, she actually has a really long flowing mane of hair. But I like the pixie cut. I think it works also particularly well for Zoe Kravitz. But I think the wig, the misdirect of the wig is something that Batwoman has used. But hey, I don't blame Matt Reeves for being like, I got here first, I'm going to use it. I mean, I just think it's fantastic. And also she is, she's a thief. She's a master of disguise. I think she'd be changing wigs a lot for different looks, to case joints, to do what she needs to do. And I'm excited to see her. I hope that would be great. I would love to see all of her looks and all of her wigs. But every time being, very high end, being very much a femme fatale. Oh, it's so great. I don't like her early days Catwoman look from the teaser trailer. I thought it was not good, and I thought there was no way that hat would stay in place. But I do think that the pussy hat is a very clever nod to the current Me Too movement. And I think for that reason, I would allow it. I'd be like, I don't love it, but that's such a good correlation. And again, something that will be critics and awards friendly, that I think we'll go with it, right? Especially because that's not going to be her final look. My guess is someone sees the hat, the claws, and she gets referred to as a cat. Maybe it's Batman, maybe it's the press, but she decides to run with it. And in year one, she sees that Batman is really getting a lot of attention, and also Batman, speaking of a misdirect, wearing the bat costume is a misdirect, so she decides to go with cats. So we'll see what her inspiration is here. But based on how good this outfit looks, I now have full confidence that her final Catwoman look will be absolutely amazing. Finally, last thing, I'd like to point out how absolutely and delightfully filthy Gotham is. I love it. I'd be like, no one cleans anything. It's perfect. It's so dirty. It's so dirty. It's fantastic. And Park Row is where Crime Alley is, where the Waynes were murdered. A very affluent part of town gone bad. I guess that's why the Waynes felt they could still walk through it, but apparently they weren't up to date on how it had fallen apart. But that's a great little nod. I love Easter eggs like that. I love them so much. We all do. And so I'm glad to see Matt Reeves is playing the game. So what do you think? Share your own wonderful thoughts about this down below. I don't see how anyone could have a problem with it. It's perfect. And it's so rare to see something that I think is absolutely flawless. It's that good. All right, and also you have some reading to do. Lucky you, because they're great stories. All right, share your thoughts down below. And by the way, I would also watch, so I would not only read, but I would watch those 2 movies. I would read The Long Halloween, I would read Dark Victory, I would read Batman Year One, I would watch The Godfather, I would watch Seven. I really, really would do that. I think it's crucial. I wonder if they'll have that scene where Batman, or someone takes care of all their enemies. We'll look for those story beats. We'll look for them. I think we're going to see them. All right, share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.